Hello again. This is a video analyzing in slightly greater detail some of the paradoxes and logical impossibilities I found in Tenet, Christopher Nolan's latest film, and one which I reviewed in greater overall detail, and rather negatively, in this video linked below. Here we will focus strictly on the time travel, which I found very bothersome and problematic. This is a response I've had to many time travel movies in the past, and maybe I'm just too close-minded or legalistic to enjoy a creative, thought-provoking work of speculative fiction. But I don't think so. The first time we're introduced to the concept of inversion, it is relatively simple. The protagonist finds himself firing a gun at a target, in which inverted bullets are embedded. The bullets tear out of the target, slam into the gun, and unless I'm mistaken, it is one of those bullets that is placed on the table, and which the protagonist summons with his mind across the table into his hand. To clarify, with the bullet, someone inverted it in the future, it traveled back in time, was picked up by the protagonist, and then put wherever he put it to continue its backwards journey, theoretically forever unless it's inverted again. But anyway, its normal time counterpart is continuing forwards to the point where it will ultimately be inverted. It's a loop, nice and tidy, and it's caused by the conscious choices of conscious beings that send it on its loop, which can somehow cause things to occur without causality. This works with inanimate objects because they don't tend to do anything unless they are acted upon, and the movie simply zooms in through time to show us only the moment in which cause and effect are simultaneous. But if you follow an object's path on into its future, it's going to affect more things, and those things are going to affect more things, and it's going to be impossible. An even better illustration of this, which the movie fails to address, is when it comes to conscious beings. For example, a simple question would be, how do the inverted bullets get into the walls if someone not inverted is firing them? Say, normal protagonist takes inverted protagonist's gun in the hallway fight. Say he shoots it at a wall. What happens? Does a bullet materialize in the wall and slam into the gun? Has it just always been in the wall? Has it been in the wall of the future, moving back through time until the moment it slams out into his gun? If so, what happens in his time as soon as he shoots the gun? It seems like the bullet doesn't slam into it at all. It has to slam out of the pistol, into the wall, so it can continue into the future, backwards in its time and forwards in his time. That's the only way it'll ever be there for him to shoot. But if that's the case, then it's not him firing an inverted gun or bullet at all. He's just firing a pistol into the wall. And how did he get the pistol in the first place? Supposedly he has to grab it and then shoot it. But in inverted time, the pistol's time, that is it being shot and then grabbed. So when did the inverted guy ever lose control of the gun? And when did the normal guy ever get his hands on it? Essentially, they can't interact, and this is why the movie is so careful about having them never do anything other than just hit each other. The only reason they can contact each other physically, directly, is because it happens at the exact same moment for each of them for as long as it happens. That's what contact is. But the moment either of them does something that affects either of their futures, it's affecting the past of the other, and therefore can never happen, and therefore becomes impossible. This is a conundrum unique to Tenet's version of time travel, and for this reason, despite the originality of the idea, I just found that it satisfied me less than other movies dealing with time. Basically, the entire story is built around trying to allow a paradox, yet it's painstakingly written in such a way as to never actually show us the paradox, because it can't show us, because it's a paradox. We cannot conceive of its existence. We don't think it can happen. Same at the end scene, when a man is standing in the crater of an explosion in a wall, and then the projectile that caused the explosion, fired from a man in oppositely flowing time, slams out of the wall and the wall reconstructs itself, leaving the man sealed in time. What does this mean? Was he just always in the wall? How did he ever go on the mission? Was he only in the wall in the inverted guy's past, and when the inverted guy shot the wall, he sprang to life and emerged to fight backwards through the battle? But this means that rather than killing him by causing the explosion, inverted guy is reviving him by shooting at a blank wall in which the normal guy happens to be sealed. You can see that the movie tries to suggest that cause and effect can be one, but that's just not how it works, because those causes have other causes, and those effects have other effects, all flowing down a river of time. If you want cause to be effect, the two flows of time can only actually contact in one single instant, like I mentioned above with the two versions of the protagonists dueling. So yeah, I just didn't find it compelling. Now for a pure thought experiment, because it can probably be simpler than any of the scenes in the movie. Say inverted guy meets normal guy in battle. Say inverted guy kills normal guy. What happens? I stumbled across this thought experiment in about 4 seconds, and it bothers me that, unless I'm forgetting something drastic, the movie completely ignores problems like this with its internal logic. So normal guy is killed by inverted guy, but normal guy's body is still normal, so he continues into his future, inverted guy's past, dead, meaning they could never meet and fight? That's just the grandfather paradox, and one I've already spoken about. But what does the inverted guy experience, continuing on in inverted time towards the normal guy's past? Because he was killed by an inverted guy, does the normal guy continue dead in backwards time? It wouldn't seem so. He's normal. So in his past, the inverted guy's future, does his death just reverse the instant it happens, and does he continue alive? That would seem even weirder, right? Would they just keep fighting because he can still kill the inverted guy in normal past, even though inverted guy already killed him in normal future? From the inverted perspective, this makes as little sense as the normal guy continuing dead backwards into inverted past before he was killed. Surely it couldn't be that inverted guy kills normal guy in moment 2, then they continue into moment 1 still fighting because normal guy is still alive, and then normal guy kills inverted guy. They are both now dead, continuing into their respective futures, and yet both alive in their respective pasts. So for each of them, from their point of view, their own deaths seem consistent. Yet from each of their point of views as well, the other guy has just been dead, killed by them even though it hasn't happened yet, and then he has sprung back to life and begun fighting. And what happens if inverted guy kills normal guy in moment 2, then they continue fighting into moment 1 and he kills him again? Was there anyone for him to fight back in moment 2? As you can see, to make any sense, the movie has to accept a many worlds interpretation, meaning each different possible event leads to a branching of reality, but these agents are only ever stuck in theirs and cannot experience the paradoxes brought on by overlapping possibilities. Okay, it has been brought to my attention that they did commit to some sort of way, I won't call it a solution because I don't think it is, but they committed to some sort of way things play out in a situation like this. At the bomb site, the protagonist and Ives arrive to a closed door, then the goon comes, shoots Ives unconscious, takes the protagonist's gun, he goes to set off the bomb, then decides to shoot the protagonist, and the dead body, Neil's dead body, leaps back to life, blocks the bullet, killing himself, and then proceeds to open the door and run back through the tunnel. His inverted self has just run down it, reached the door, opened it, darted in just in time to stop the goon from shooting the protagonist, sacrificing himself. Now first I will point out that the only reason this conveniently works, without the goon recognizing Neil as a foe and without the action accounting for all the things that brings into play, the only reason it works is because the goon was not trying to shoot Neil. He didn't recognize the presence of a dead body as a factor. So, what would have happened if, as Neil approached the door in his time, moving towards the fateful gunshot from the future, he had taken the initiative and shot the goon? Maybe it was all in a rush, maybe he would have only managed to one shot in a billion, blah blah blah, things would have happened differently. But the point is, events could have played out in such a manner as to allow him to, as he approaches, shoot the goon. What happens? This brings in all the dilemmas I was mentioning before. Does the goon spring to life the moment that Neil kills him, and go back in time to still shoot Ives in the head? Can he shoot Neil at an earlier point now? Supposedly not, because it's all strictly deterministic, right? What has happened has always happened and has necessitated everything else that has always happened and will always continue to happen forever. But as I said, the scene is only able to play out because the goon doesn't mean to shoot Neil. If he had gone down to the door and Neil had been alive inside, which could have happened as well, presumably the goon would have shot him, Neil. But the moment he shoots him, Neil dies, so Neil is lying dead on the floor when the goon comes, and the goon never has reason to shoot him. So Neil's not dead, giving the goon reason to shoot him, and on, the grandfather paradox. But they actually pretend they reconcile us to some sort of conclusion when they don't. They simply make Neil a non-factor in the goon's conscious decisions, so he isn't trying to shoot a dead body, anticipating it will bring it to life. No, he's shooting another thing, and the dead body just happens to rise up, block the bullet, thereby becoming alive, and racing back up the tunnel. Basically, warriors in the world of inversion are going around finding dead enemies and shooting them to bring them to life. Not very smart warriors. And also what happens, does he just have the bullet in his head until he runs down and it's pulled out of the gun by the goon? I forget if it goes into his head, but that sort of thing could happen. It's annoying. It's annoying. Either way, it's impossible. Either he's killed in moment 2, and in moment 3, he's just a dead body the inverted man sees. This means they never fight, or he is killed in moment 2, and he continues dead backwards in time somehow, and this means they also never fight? And the more conscious agents they have, the more impossible it becomes, because they're all doing things, causing things, that are supposed to interact and affect other things, all at the same time, with conflicting goals, and in this case, actually moving opposite directions in time. It's impossible. This is something I encountered in trying to write a medieval fantasy short story involving time travel, somewhat similar to Nicolas Cage's time travel in Next. Eventually it got so confused and paradoxical that I simply rewrote the magic system to avoid time travel altogether. To wrap up, overall, to the degree that it's a spy thriller, I simply felt that it was blasé, action-heavy, emotionally shallow, pointlessly complex. To the degree that it was science fiction, it did present a spectacle, but it was ultimately, in my opinion, inconsistent, disappointing, and paradoxical. It required an extremely contrived, orchestrated plot just to avoid seeming totally senseless. The end of this thought experiment. There are more interesting ones on the channel dealing with various matters of morality, philosophy, science, futurism, and so on. Be sure to check those out, as well as my overall Tenet review if you haven't. As always, please consider subscribing if you enjoy content like this. I love it. I hope you love it. See you next time.